Imagine standing on the shore of a perfectly still lake. The water stretches for miles, dark and silent. Suddenly, something breaks the surface. A long neck, a series of massive humps, and then it's gone. For centuries, people around the world have claimed they've witnessed enormous creatures hiding beneath some of the deepest freshwater lakes on Earth. Today, we're traveling across the globe in search of the world's most famous lake monsters. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Midnight Brew and Mysteries. This is season 2, episode 1. I am so excited to be here with you guys today and share this episode with you. It was a long 2 weeks, and then I had kind of an extra week because I had kind of a busy day, didn't really want to rush my filming for the podcast on that day, so I decided it was better if I just waited and just filmed the following week. But I had a really good time off from doing the podcast. I just kind of wanted to take a little bit of time to enjoy my Saturdays and Sundays, because those are typically the days when I film or record the podcast. Just wanted to have like kind of a little break from it, but also it's kind of nice to just kind of refresh the mind, get my creative juices flowing again in my brain. And also I did all of my episodes last season, so I had to think of all new episodes for this season, and it took me a little while just to get some really good episodes down and written down. So in today's episode, we are exploring lake monsters around the world, and I'm really excited about this episode because I've always kind of had a little fascination with like oceans and lakes, really deep lakes. As a child, my favorite place to go was Lake Michigan in Chicago. And we would go to Lake Michigan, and I would wander the shores of Lake Michigan on the cliffs and the rocks for, I don't know, hours is as best as I could probably put it. I would walk and go so far. I probably not good on my part because I was a little kid and I wandered off pretty far, but I just absolutely was fascinated with the water. I still am. And I just love when you look in the water and you see some gigantic, huge fish. Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. I just get very excited about things like that. So I was very excited about this episode. And I always thought it was kind of interesting that almost every country in the world has some kind of form of lake monster. It's interesting that they exist on nearly every continent, even here in the US. So there are some that are like more famous than others, obviously, but I just always thought that was really interesting. It's kind of a worldwide thing. I thought this was a very interesting topic to talk about, and there's so much discussion about whether or not they are real. Are they prehistoric dinosaurs that are just living in these waters that we don't know about because they never come out? Or is it something else that we're getting confused? We're thinking that it's some kind of dinosaur or lake monster or sea monster. What are these things really? Humankind has been fascinated with giant, big sea monsters for a long time. If you've ever heard of the Kraken, the big octopus squid looking thing that ravages ships, it's always been a story that humans have told, and very interesting topic to talk about, and whether or not it's an unexplained mystery or if it has a truly scientific explanation. Let's talk a little bit more about the settings for some of these lake monster tales. Deep lakes that naturally create mystery because sunlight cannot penetrate very far because they are so deep. And many lakes are surrounded by forests, mountains, or remote wilderness, making them feel isolated, making people feel alone. Hence, maybe they think they saw something that they didn't really see. And before sonar and scuba technology, people had little idea about what lay beneath the surface. So any big giant reflection that they saw down in the water, they were scared. They thought maybe this is a giant sea monster or a lake monster. And even today, some lakes are so deep and so cold that they remain largely unexplored. The first lake monster we're going to talk about is, of course, one of the most famous in the world. The Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, lives in Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands in Scotland. Loch Ness is unlike the bright blue lakes often seen in vacation brochures. It's a long, narrow, and incredibly dark body of water. The water has a tea-colored appearance because of peat that washes down from the surrounding hills. And even on sunny days, the lake often looks almost black. The loch stretches about 23 miles, wow, that is pretty big, and reaches depths of nearly 750 feet, making it one of the largest bodies of fresh water in the United Kingdom by volume. Surrounding the lake are green, rolling hills, dense forest, ancient castle ruins, frequent fog, rainy weather, winding roads hugging the shoreline. It feels like the perfect setting for an old legend. And just looking at pictures of Loch Ness, it does give like an eerie feel, especially when there is that fog kind of rolling in and there's just these old ancient crumbling buildings on the shorelines, and just a very creepy, eerie place. One that I would absolutely love to be able to just walk around and explore around there. One of the most famous sightings occurred in 1933. George Spicer and his wife were driving along the road beside Loch Ness when they reported seeing an enormous creature cross in front of their car. George described it as having an unusually long neck. Kind of sounds like it could be some dinosaur. A bulky body, no visible legs, dark gray coloring, and he estimated it was roughly 25 feet long. The creature reportedly disappeared toward the lake, and their account helped launch worldwide interest in Nessie. So I just want to pull up a picture of Nessie. So the most famous picture of Nessie is a black and white photo, which is kind of hard to tell what you're really looking at. Could be anything, but it's known as the surgeon's photograph of 1934. They're claiming that this photo is a hoax. They're claiming that this is not indeed the Loch Ness Monster, but this is the first really known photo of the Loch Ness Monster. Does it look like it could be a monster? Looks kind of weird for sure, but it does kind of also look like it could be something else. Yeah, not really so sure that I necessarily believe that that is an actual monster. It kind of looks like it could be a floating log or something like that. And that is pretty big, 25 feet long. And if you actually look at the picture of what they think Nessie looks like, it does kind of look similar to some dinosaurs back in the, dinosaur age that would be around, the ones with the like big flipper things and the long necks. They kind of do look kind of similar to what they're saying Nessie might look like. The interesting fact is that there's over 1,000 reported sightings of Nessie in Loch Ness, and numerous sonar searches have been conducted. The famous surgeon's photograph from 1934, once thought to be proof, was later revealed to be a hoax. Modern DNA studies of the lake have found no evidence of a large unknown reptile, although researchers have suggested giant eels could be one of the possible explanations. So, do I think there's really a Loch Ness Monster or not? They're saying that they've combed through this lake, they've used sonar, they've done their best to try to see if there is truly a monster living in the waters. But even with the sonar, with the lake being pretty big and pretty deep, and it sounds like you're really not able to see very far down, how do they really know that they didn't actually just not catch it by sonar. Who's to say that maybe it didn't just swim away as it heard the boat coming with the sonar equipment, and who's to say that maybe they can't even pick up on the sonar equipment? It's very possible. Lots of animals and different birds and species have abilities to pick up on like sonar waves and different kind of waves. So who's to say that it didn't just swim away? I personally kind of want to believe that there is a Loch Ness monster just because the setting looks so eerie, and I truly believe that we really don't know everything there is in the oceans, in the lakes, in the rivers. How could we know everything? We're not there all the time. And who's to say that there aren't like caverns and caves and different kinds of areas where a sea monster or a lake monster could hide? I personally think it could be true. The photograph that there is currently really isn't offering much hope because it doesn't look very real, but I kind of want to say I want to believe that Nessie is real. Our next monster is Champ, the monster of Lake Champlain Lake in Lake Champlain. And this is located between New York, Vermont, and Canada. Very large lake. It's enormous. It stretches over 120 miles long. That is huge. Surrounded by mountains, forests, rocky cliffs, and charming lakeside towns, morning fog often settles across the water, limiting visibility. Again, we have the fog. I don't know. I like to believe that weird things live in foggy areas sometimes. The lake reaches depths of nearly 400 feet. You mean to tell me that you can find out everything that is in that lake when it's that deep? I don't know. Its size alone makes it easy to imagine something enormous remaining unseen. Exactly, that's what I said. A witness described the monster as dark green or black body, long neck, serpent appearance, several humps, 20 to 80 feet long. Again, is it just me or is there not a pattern? It seems like a lot of these lake monsters, sea monsters, people describe the same type of appearance. So maybe there's a species of some kind of animal living in these waters that looks similar to some kind of lake monster, and they all seem to kind of describe that same type of description for these animals. So isn't that kind of interesting? I just think that that's a little bit of a coincidence. For our eyewitness story, let's talk about Sandra Mancy. In 1977, Sandra Mancy was relaxing on the shore with her family when she claimed to see a strange creature roughly 150 feet offshore. She watched for several minutes before taking what would become one of the most famous photographs associated with Champ. Sandra later described, "It wasn't a fish, it wasn't a boat." She believes she had photographed an unknown animal. The image remains controversial, and skeptics argue it may show a floating log, while believers point to its apparent neck and body. Indigenous Abenaki stories describe a large lake creature long before European settlers arrived. Okay, there we go. I don't think I need any more proof after that. More than 300 sightings have been reported, and some local businesses have embraced Champ as part of the region's identity. So let's look at a picture of Champ real quick together. Is a very similar picture to that of Nessie, kind of showing like a kind of floating humped body with a kind of long curved neck and a head at the end of it. So again, is it just me or does it not look kind of similar to Nessie? I really think that there is something in the waters that we don't know about. And it's probably been living there for a long time, or maybe there's many of them. And who's to say that it isn't some kind of species of, maybe it's a reptile or some kind of possible ancestor of dinosaurs that we just don't know about. But I just truly feel like Champ could very well be real. And also, when you take into account just how big and huge and deep Lake Champlain is, there's no way you mean to tell me that they've been able to check that entire body of water to know that Champ isn't real. But a lot of people think that the picture is a floating log. I mean, you look at it and you tell me, do you think that looks like a picture of a floating log? I've never seen a floating log that looks like that, but you may think so. But personally, I just think that Champ is definitely real. I almost even feel like Champ is even more real to me than Loch Ness Monster is, because it's just such a big body of water. And I feel like when you have such very deep waters, who knows what's living in there, okay? Who knows? For our third monster, we have Ogopogo, Canada's legendary serpent lake monster. And he or she resides in the Okanagan Lake in British Columbia. So Okanagan, I hope I'm saying that right. Okanagan Lake is breathtaking. Crystal blue water stretches for more than 80 miles, surrounded by steep mountains, vineyards, pine forests, and rocky cliffs. Despite its beauty, the lake reaches depths of over 750 feet. Okay. Strong underwater currents and sudden storms can quickly transform the peaceful lake into rough water. Witnesses describe the monster as a serpent body, dark green scales, multiple humps, horse-like head, and it's 40 to 50 feet long. Okay, is it me, or are these very deep lakes and bodies of water, is it just me, or are these monsters all kind of sounding the same? Could it be just coincidence? People, think that they're seeing something that is similar to the Loch Ness Monster, similar to Champ. Or are they really all seeing the same type of animal or reptile? Who is to say that this is not a descendant of dinosaurs and it lives in deep bodies of water that have been there for a long, long time? With Champ, even indigenous peoples said that they saw something, and way before anyone else came over to the country. So it's just kind of a coincidence, I'm just saying. One well-known modern report came in 1968 when Art Folden filmed something moving across the lake while testing a movie camera. The footage appears to show a dark object traveling quickly across the surface, and reporters argue it depicts Ogopogo, while skeptics suggest it may have been a floating log or boat wake. The Folden film is still discussed by cryptid enthusiasts today. Long before the name Ogopogo, the Silix, or Okanagan people, told stories about a powerful spirit associated with the lake. These traditions are culturally significant and differ from the modern monster legend, though the two are often linked in pop culture.
When we came by it the first time, that's where I thought it was a log.
On their last sale of the season, Dale Hanchar, his wife Colleen, and their neighbor Myrna Germaine Brown saw something shocking beneath Okanagan Lake's surface.
Nice easy breeze, cruising out across the lake, and we saw something in the water. And as a boater, I was just looking, is this something dangerous that needs to be marked so somebody doesn't run into it? We went by it. It looked like a log down into the water, but didn't look quite right.
That's when they snapped a photo.
It wasn't until we got home, we got looking at it and zoomed in on it that we were like...
puzzled.
The horns are if we can call them that, so the nodules.
Yeah.
Oh, at least 3 feet.
And then it goes out from there.
And, it would have been that big. And that's why I thought if it was Ogopogo sleeping, I don't want to be here.
So I think if people had been reporting something in these bodies of water long before settlers came, long before modern technology, long before sonar, I think we should kind of take that as a sign that maybe there really is something there. And People have been seeing it for a long time. So who's to say it's not real? This name, I hope I'm going to pronounce right, but Nahuelito, Argentina's hidden giant lake monster. And it lives in the Nahuel Huapi Lake in Patagonia. I hope I'm saying that right. This lake almost looks prehistoric. Snow-covered mountains surround the shoreline, and dense forests cover much of the landscape. Cold winds sweep across the water, and the lake reaches depths of more than 1,500 feet, making one of the deepest lakes in South America. The water is incredibly cold year-round. So witnesses report, let's see if it sounds like the other ones, a plesiosaur-like body, a long neck, dark gray skin, several humps, and it's 30 to 50 feet long. All right, so is it just me, or are we not coming into a pattern? In several different continents. Just saying. In 1922, newspapers published reports from people claiming to have seen a massive creature swimming in the lake. The stories became so widespread that an expedition was organized to investigate. Nothing conclusive was ever found, but the reports cemented Nahuelito as one of South America's best-known cryptids. So, again, we're just seeing the same type of thing everywhere, which and these are all pretty good, deep, big size bodies of water. I'm just getting more and more convinced that there's definitely something out there. Aren't you? Because I sure am. The last one we're going to talk about is Pinky. It's Florida's lake monster, and Pinky lives in Lake Crescent, Florida. Unlike the mountain lakes we've discussed, Lake Crescent sits among Florida's lush woodlands. The shoreline is lined with towering cypress and oak trees draped in Spanish moss. On humid mornings, mist often rises from the calm water. The lake is spring-fed and usually clear in places, but shadows from vegetation and changing light can make it difficult to judge what's beneath the surface. The quiet setting has fueled local stories for generations. Witnesses describe a pale pink or light-colored body, long eel-like shape, large size, sometimes estimated at 15 to 30 feet, smooth skin, and the nickname Pinky comes from reports that the creature appeared lighter or pinkish rather than dark like most lake monsters. Local reports, unlike Nessie or Champ, there isn't one widely documented eyewitness account that becomes internationally famous. Instead, the legend is built on multiple local reports of people claiming to have seen a large, unusual animal moving through the lake or briefly surfacing before disappearing. Some residents have suggested it could have been an exceptionally large eel, gar, or another known animal seen under unusual lighting, while others believe something unidentified may inhabit the lake. Florida's lakes are home to large alligators, long-nosed gar, giant catfish, and manatees in connected waterways, all animals that can surprise observers and sometimes contribute to unusual sighting. I'm kind of like, I don't think it's necessarily a big monster like the Loch Ness Monster or Champ or Ogopogo or Nahuelito. I just think that maybe it's a very large, some kind of very large eel or some kind of very large fish. Honestly, if you've ever walked the wetlands of Florida, you know that it's hard to see down in that water. It's usually very muddy. It's sometimes clear, but usually it's kind of hard to really get a good view. And a lot of times when the fish are swimming or like a big current comes along, it can kind of shift up the sand and mud and things and kind of create like a cloudy water. So I could kind of see with these, maybe it'd be a little harder to kind of really see in there. But does that mean that a monster doesn't really exist? Not necessarily, because it could just be a different type. Now this one, we have, the sightings kind of describe a little bit of a different monster, not quite the same as Nessie or the other monsters that we described previously. And of course, these waters are not very deep, because most of the lakes and rivers and different things in Florida are quite shallow actually. So not necessarily as, deep of a place. So I feel like with this one, do I believe it could be a monster? I definitely think it's very possible that there could be some kind of species of animal, fish, reptile, something living in those waters that we're just not really that sure about. Or it really could just be the cloudy water kind of maybe playing tricks on people's eyes. But I definitely believe in, Nessie and Nahualito and Ogopogo and Champ. I just feel like there's just too much water for us to just sit there and count out the fact that there's nothing living there that is some big, huge reptile, animal, dinosaur descendant, whatever. And Pinky could very well be real too, but kind of with the color, I almost feel like maybe people are mistaking it for something else, possibly. But nearly every lake monster shares these characteristics. Lives in deep water, has a long neck or serpent-like body, is dark in color with Pinky as the exception, and appears briefly before disappearing, and leaves very little physical evidence. So I feel like if we're all kind of seeing the same thing, and we're all living all over the world, and we're all reporting these same kinds of sightings, it's very possible that we are all looking at the same thing, but it's something that we don't know what it is, and people haven't discovered it yet. And actually, if you read up, you'll see that we don't know that much about the oceans, and we don't know that much about all the bodies of water. It's actually one of the places that has been explored the least, because it is hard to get to some of these places because they are so deep or so cold, or maybe the environment or the conditions make it hard to get there. So under the water is actually one of the final frontiers that people haven't really explored as much as here on land. So if thousands of people from different countries describe remarkably similar creatures, what explains it? Think about that. Are these stories rooted in folklore, honest misidentification, shared human imagination? Or is there still something hidden beneath the surface of our deepest lakes? Have you ever seen a lake monster or a sea monster in a lake or a river or the ocean? If you have, leave it in the comments and I'll share it in a future episode. Also, I am going to be having a listener stories episode, so if you do have a paranormal or unexplained mystery story that has happened to you or that you have seen or has occurred to you, please feel free to leave a comment down below. You can leave your story there if you like, or you can just simply say, send me your email, and I'll go ahead and send you a message with my email so that you can send it over to me. You can also message me on my YouTube if you would like. Just leave it in the comments if you don't care to. That's fine too. But I would love to have your all stories for my future listener stories episode. I'm very excited about that. I have some great stories I'm going to share with you guys. But ponder about this and think about it. Do you think lake monsters or sea monsters are real? Or have you ever seen anything kind of unexplained? I've never personally seen one myself, but I will say that in Lake Michigan and when I was at another lake in Kentucky, I saw some really large, very scary looking fish down beneath the surface of the water, kind of in the early evening time. And it was very scary because they were massive. I was like, wow, what is that? just what is that? And you know, my mind instantly goes to like, what could that possibly be? Is that some kind of creepy monster? What is that? Because that's just me. But yes, definitely let me know your experiences. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it'll get you thinking and kind of wondering about, you know, what is really out there, because do we really know everything? No, we don't. People don't know everything. So I think it's a very interesting thing to think about. I'll see you guys in my next podcast. I hope that you enjoyed, and until the next time. Bye, guys.